Hi everyone, and welcome to my second online self-help tool. And today I'm going to be talking about uncertainty, fear and grief. And I hope that what I share will help you understand and deal with some of the worry and anxiety and other feelings you may be having about coronavirus and the way it's affecting all of our lives. So if you are struggling with the uncertainty and feeling fear and grief, I want to say first of all that yes, these are all normal and common feelings to be having at this time. And secondly, I want to reassure you that there are things that you can do which can help. And I'm going to share some simple self-help activities shortly that you can use to reconnect with some inner calm and comfort. Before I do that, though, I'm going to share some of what I'm finding helpful in relation to uncertainty, fear and grief. I'm also going to turn off the camera, as having me on camera will hide some of the content on the slides, which I don't want you to miss. And I'll switch it on again at the end. So starting with uncertainty, for most of us, the uncertainty in our current situation can feel really hard to deal with. It can trigger worry and doubt, both of which can make us feel more anxious or more depressed, or perhaps both. And a big part of the reason for this is simply that uncertainty has a huge impact on both our brain and our nervous system. Firstly, the effect on our brain. Uncertainty is hard for our brains to understand because we're having to deal with the unknown. And what lots of unknowns, the uncertainty, sparks in our brain most of all is fear. And typically fear is at its highest as we wait, while we sit with the unknown rather than when we hear the outcome. No matter what that outcome may be, the not knowing is often the hardest part. So if you are feeling increased fear right now, be assured this is a normal human response. And although it's not comfortable, you're not alone. We're all struggling with the reality of uncertainty and facing the unknown right now. Usually someone has the answer, or there's a process we can follow. But with this, we are all just waiting. Secondly, uncertainty affects our autonomic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that keeps us alive without us having to think about it. All the uncertainty we are living with is actually giving our autonomic nervous system mixed messages, which knock it out of balance so it's unable to operate at its best. For those of you who've attended any of my workshops at Wirral Mind, you'll be familiar with this image of the two key parts of the autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system, which mobilizes us, preparing us for action and movement, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which immobilizes us, calming us down, enabling us to relax, digest our food, and learn. And there are two things which help the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system stay in balance. These are predictability and something called co-regulation, which means being with others. However, the coronavirus has created exactly the opposite conditions: unpredictability and being apart. And the impact of this is that the uncertainty is acting like rocket fuel for worry, causing us to see threats everywhere we look, and at the same time, it makes us more likely to react emotionally in response to those threats. So what we are experiencing is our sympathetic nervous system being overactive and running the show, making it harder for us to switch on our parasympathetic nervous system to help us feel more calm and relaxed. So having said a little bit about the uncertainty and fear we're all trying to deal with, I think there is also another major effect that the coronavirus is having, one which is less obvious, so we are not necessarily talking about it as much. And this is that we are all experiencing loss and so feeling grief. We feel the world has changed, and it has. We know this is temporary, but it doesn't feel that way, and we realise things will be different in future. We are experiencing many different types of loss, all of which bring some level of grief, from the loss of normal, our normal lifestyle, normal routines, our normal connections with family and friends, to the loss of stability, the loss of income, and for some of us, the loss of loved ones. With a virus like coronavirus, this kind of grief is confusing for us humans. Our primitive mind knows something bad is happening, but we can't see it. This then breaks our sense of safety, and we don't quite know what we are dealing with or how best to deal with it. All of this increases the uncertainty we face. And remember, our brains can't deal with uncertainty, and this triggers our fear. So we can end up in a repeating cycle of uncertainty, fear, loss, and grief. And as with any type of grief, compassion and kindness for ourselves and each other is really helpful. If we can remember that everyone's nervous system and brain is struggling to deal with the fear and uncertainty, and that we are all grieving individually and together, which is something new for all of us. It may also be useful to remember that there are several stages to the process of grief that we will typically go through. There's denial. This virus won't affect me. Then there's anger. You're making me stay home and taking away my activities. Then there's bargaining. Okay, if I keep social distancing, everything will be better, right? There's sadness. I don't know when this will end. And finally, there's acceptance. This is happening, and I have to figure out how to proceed. Acceptance is where the power lies. We find control in acceptance. I can wash my hands, I can keep a safe distance, and I can learn how to work or connect with others virtually. Do remember, though, that we may not go through these different stages in this order. The journey through grief is different for each of us and can be random and roundabout, and often more like the blue image on the right here. So what can help us deal with this uncertainty and our fear and grief? What we need is to get our autonomic nervous system back in balance. So any activities that will help us turn down the sympathetic nervous system and switch on and turn up the parasympathetic nervous system to help us feel calmer, more relaxed, and able to think straight. In my experience, one of the easiest ways we can do this is by getting back into our body rather than trying to do it with our head. So the self-help tool I'm focusing on today is coming into the present moment. And I'm going to share here 3 simple activities you can try that will all help you come into the present moment. And these are what I call my 5 senses, fingertips to thumb, and self-soothing. Coming into the present moment is so effective as it helps us counter our fear, because fear only exists in the future or in the past, when we are either imagining what could or may happen, or thinking that something from the past will happen again. So coming into the present moment shifts our attention, mental attention, from the past or future fear and into the present, which helps our nervous system calm down and come back into balance. So the first activity is my 5 senses, and our senses are a good place to start, and they are always available to us. And this activity is simply starting off by naming 5 things you can see right now. So for me, I can see my computer screen, the yellow paint on my wall, my desk, my coffee cup, and a large stone on my desk. Then name 4 things you can touch right now. I can touch my mouse, my pen, my arms, and my diary. Then name 3 things you can hear right now. I can hear the wind outside, the bin men collecting my bin, and my breathing. Then 2 things that you can smell right now. I can smell coffee and the flour on my desk. And then lastly, name 1 thing you can taste right now. And I can taste my coffee. It's that simple. remembering to breathe too, realizing that in the present moment, nothing you have anticipated has happened. In this moment, you're okay. The second way to bring your attention into the present moment is to do the fingertips to thumb activity. And you can do this with either one hand or both. And it's an activity to do slowly and with attention. Start with your hand or both hands open, and then slowly bring your fingertips to touch the top of your thumb. Hold them there for a moment, and then slowly open them back up again. And repeat this movement of bringing the fingertips and thumb tip together and then apart for several minutes, or longer if you want to. Just paying attention to this simple movement can help shift your attention into this moment now. And it can be useful to notice what feels different after you've done this from before doing it. If you feel calmer and are breathing more deeply, then this activity has helped to get your autonomic nervous system back in balance. If you feel no change, you can either try again for longer or try a different activity. And the third way to come into the present moment is by self-soothing. And there are two parts to this activity which go together and can help us self-soothe and get our autonomic nervous system back in balance. So for the first part, place one hand under one armpit and the other hand holding the top of the other arm, like in the picture. And it doesn't matter which arm is under or over. You can try both and do whichever feels more comfortable for you. Try and keep the words, "be kind to myself," in your mind, and simply stay like this for as long as you're comfortable. 5 minutes if you can, or 10 minutes is even better. And again, notice what feels different after you've done this from before doing it. And in part 2 of this self-soothing activity, start by placing one hand on your forehead and the other over your heart area, as shown in the first image. Pay attention to what you notice going on inside your body under each hand, and move your attention back and forth, noticing what you're feeling under one hand and then the other. You may feel some kind of sensation or the temperature of your body, or perhaps nothing obvious to you at this moment. And there is no right or wrong here. This is just an opportunity to pay attention to your internal experience and bring your attention into the present. When you feel ready, then move the hand on your forehead down to place it on your belly. And again, pay attention to what you notice going on inside your body under each hand, and moving your attention back and forth between each hand. And as with part 1, do it for as long as you are comfortable, and if you can, up to 5 or even 10 minutes. When you have finished, once again notice what feels different after you've done this activity from before doing it. Hopefully you will feel calmer and more at ease, which suggests your autonomic nervous system has come back into balance. I'm going to switch the camera back on for the last slide. So these are 3 simple activities that can help us come into the present moment. Do remember, these activities are simply suggestions for you to try. If they work for you, that's great. And if they don't, try something different. Not everything works for everyone, and we all have to find what works for us, often through trial and error. This is all I'm going to share with you today, and I hope you find it helpful. I will be doing some more online self-help tools over the coming weeks, and I look forward to seeing you again then. In the meantime, remember to be kind to yourself and those around you, and stay safe. And thank you for watching.